Welcome to part 2 of our Skyline history tour. In part 1, we talked about the Napa Asylum for the Insane and how the grounds became Skyline. We did an analysis on the stone walls, went over the history of the lakes, and uncovered the backstory behind this freestanding chimney. In part 2, we'll take a walk along Lake Murray Road. Lake Murray Road is like an artery running through the center of the park. It starts at the lower lakes, runs parallel to Murray Creek for 2 miles, and ends at Lake Murray. Now I'd like to start at the top by Lake Murray and work our way down, because the most interesting thing is at the bottom. Not far from the lake is a massive rock formation. I can barely get it in the frame of my camera. Some people think it's the Asylum crematorium. It's not, but it sure grabs your attention. It has 3 chambers. The middle chamber has this very odd recessed area. I would almost describe it as a mock window. And between the middle and right-hand chambers near the back is a hand-carved doorway. You can see the chisel marks. This was done laboriously by hand. If you look closely, the back wall has some writing on it. I think it says D-I-E-L. Deal. And then there's a 57 below it. I don't see an 18 or a 19 or...
Is that a 7?
It's not very deep. So looking at it a little more closely, it's grown over with moss, but there's a 3 here. It's pretty clear. That might be 1. 3, 1, 5, 7. 3, 1, 5, 7. Huh. Maybe there's more down here. Hard to say. I'd be very curious if Deal was an asylum patient. Were patients assigned 4-digit numbers by any chance? A 1982 article suggests this was a test quarry for a dam on South Tuolacay Creek. If it was a quarry, heck, maybe it was used to build the next thing down the road, which is really close by. Take one more look at this feature. Do you see the half octagon? Remember that, because you're going to see this shape echoed in the next structure. Continuing on, things get a little morbid. There seems to be a lot of confusion about this structure. One day I was standing in front of it and a couple walked by. The guy said, "Honey, check this out. This was a little house. It even has a chimney." It has a chimney, all right, but it wasn't a house. This was the Asylum crematorium. Before 1924, patients who died on site, unless they were people of means, were buried on hospital grounds. Eventually, they ran out of space for burials, so they built this crematorium. It used to have a tin roof. The opening in the back is where the furnace chamber inserted. There's still a fragment of metal sheeting attached to reflect heat inwards. I think there's a second opening on the right, but the deterioration is worse. Maybe the right side was used more than the left. Between 1924 and 1964, which is when this crematorium operated, there were 5,100 cremations. That works out to 2.5 cremations per week, so it does seem like 2 slots would be handy. All right, enough of that. As we approach the bottom of Lake Murray Road, there are a couple of caves. One is very dark and creepy. A hiking book claims this one is natural. The other cave is shallow, and there's a wet spot by it all the time. Turns out that's an underground spring, and this cave was dug to find its source. In the early years of the asylum, when water sources were limited, lots of caves were dug in the surrounding hills to collect every gallon of water possible. I found a fun cave story, and who knows, maybe it pertains to one of these caves. So in the late 1800s, a group of patients were allowed to live in their own houses on the grounds, rather than in the main building. Peter Russell was one such fellow. He dug a cave for himself, equipped it with a chimney, and lived in it year-round. He was quite a talented trapper, and hung 500 squirrel skin trophies outside his home. What a show-off. So if you ever find a cave with a chimney and maybe a few squirrel bones inside, you'll know what it is. Okay, so here we are at the base of Lake Murray Road. There's something really interesting down here. To appreciate it, you first have to imagine life in the 1880s. Say you lived in the city of Napa and this big, beautiful castle had been built nearby. It had lush gardens, sparkling lakes, and was populated by, let's say, eccentric individuals. And it was open to the public. What would you do on your weekends? Have a picnic at the asylum, naturally. The major attraction during this time was something called the Hermitage. This was a small community of patients that built their own houses and farmed a portion of asylum land. Lower Lake Murray Road was once called Hermitage Drive. According to an 1889 article, no road in our vicinity is more traveled than the one to the asylum. 2 or 3 lines of omnibuses make several trips back and forth daily. And the newspapers had glowing things to say about it. The hermit, Mr. Barrington, is once more at home to every caller, and his register of visitors shows that they are not a few. This place, so attractive, so neat, so well kept, has been fully described in our columns heretofore, and what we could say now would be but repetition. The visitor can here see what man, by industry, with a love for the beautiful, can accomplish. The hermit's near neighbor, Pete, or as Dr. Wilkins calls him, the Little Giant, has during the past year improved the appearance of the canyon, upstream towards the forebay very much, and is still at work. Content if he may build walls, lay out paths, make comfortable his new home or outbuildings. Now I see the word canyon here and I am baffled. I've been all over Skyline and have never seen a canyon. Is there any hope of finding this place? I don't expect the houses to still exist, but I'm interested in finding this rocky channel here. Luckily, an 1886 article provides detailed directions to the Hermitage. We pass the asylum, it says, bowl along Lake Avenue, by Lake Camille, through groves of oaks, passing now a vineyard and orchard on the right, on the left the brook that feeds the lake. At the base of a perpendicular rocky cliff, our party spread their tempting lunch, almost in the bed of the brook. Following these instructions, it seems, would take us into Camp Coombs, which is a black box to me. The area is surrounded by, but not an official part of Skyline. The The entrance to Camp Coombs, along with Lake Louise, is fenced off. So we followed the fence line up Lake Marie Road. The sign doesn't say keep out, so we decided to take a look. On the right is the old orchard. Google Lens identifies it as black walnut for what it's worth. So here we are, orchard on the right, brook on the left. Let's see what there is to see. It wasn't long before we started seeing rock work, and lots of it. Ooh, look at this. Old rock wall. More rock wall there.
So that's original 1800s construction there.
What is it?
It was a fountain.
Oh.
There's a piece of steel there that was a part of it, and that looks like there was maybe something planted back there. So this is where the Hermitage would have been, right?
This is where the Hermitage would have been. I can't believe any remnant of it exists. I am so thrilled.
And then, very exciting, there was a bridge. The creek bed was lined with rocks. Hard to see, it's covered in ivy. Could this be the site of the Hermitage houses? The rockwork is covered in ivy, but this tree might be a match. While I was gawking at the bridge, my husband continued down the trail and found something even more amazing.
Well, that's not what I was expecting.
When I caught up to him, I was stunned.
I know what that is.
What is it?
That's Coombs Ranch Dam. Coombs Ranch Dam.
Coombs Ranch Dam.
That is the oldest structure on this property. Woo! I'm pretty sure. These rocks were described in the newspapers. I had no idea what they're talking about. These rocks, they would come out here and picnic. This is their picnic spot.
There it is, one of the oldest, if not the oldest structure in the area. 1872. I didn't think it still existed.
Oh my goodness.
So that confirms it. This is Hermitage Canyon. This is where Mr. Barrington, the Mexican War veteran, held court, and Pete, the little giant, made crooked ways straight. No wonder Napa residents flocked to this place.
King of Coombs Ranch.
After 1890, something happened to the Hermitage. The paper stopped mentioning it. But perhaps we can keep its memory alive, just for a little longer. Thanks for watching part 2 of this series. In part 3, we have a couple of fun odds and ends, and a theory for this building. Finally, we make a trip to the back of the hospital to answer one last lingering question.